thank you everybody for attending. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, Tina here, Joanne
Here.
Stephen
Here.
Nicole
Here.
Danielle.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand and join us all for saying a pledge of allegiance. Flag is behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No. Moving on to number 4, I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 5A, which would be the November 6th meeting minutes, October 30th meeting minutes, and October 16th meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the 3 meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 as presented.
Okay, seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 5B. Turn that over to Susan.
This is the treasurer's report for October 2024. In the Community State Bank cash account, we started with $170,517.79, ending the month with $581,705.88. Community State Bank credit card account, $8,611.16 at the beginning of the month, ending the month with $2,344.19. Community State Bank Capital Improvement Trust Fund 46, starting and ending the month with $3,000. Petty cash, starting and ending the month with $500. Petty cash in the school office, starting and ending the month with $200. Cash with the fiscal agent, this is the WISC account with PMA, which is handling the bulk of the capital expenditures from the referendum. Started the beginning of the month with $1,546,612.26, ending the month with $954,346.87. The local government investment pool, starting the month with $2,945,557.50, ending the month with $1,212,106.36. For a grand asset total in the beginning of the month of $4,674,998.71, ending the month with $2,754,203.30.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
And so you said the Community State Bank ended at 581,705. But on the bottom of this sheet, it shows 597,491.67, and all the other numbers match up. So
That's actual. I do not know. I have to look
because
at it.
it looks like the last 4 months those have been off, and this month it was. Yeah.
Do you want to see that piece of paper?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at what he's providing for you.
So you can see the written below is the amount of difference.
Let's hope the salary break gives us an additional 17,000.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll have to look into it.
But the last 3 months before are a lot more in the other direction. So
Okay, I'll look into that.
Okay.
I do have a question too.
you want me to send you a copy of that?
Yeah, if you could,
Sure.
that'd be great.
In your cash with fiscal agent, 49, account 49, how come there's an extra 49,000 plus?
I put that on last month's
Because it doesn't match the ending balance of last month.
records. 49,000, hold on a second. I do believe that's the retirement of the bond anticipation notes. Let me get to my notes. move the $49,694.84 from the WISC ban to the LGIP for debt retirement. So it's actually in the LGIP now instead of the WISC account. If it's still showing in the WISC account, then I need to finish the transaction.
Oh, okay.
There was also an E-rate refund of $47,683.51 that was put into 49 revenues.
Okay.
That's because we spent money on technology purchases through the referendum, and the E-rate waited until this year, this fiscal year, to return the money. Well, half, part of it. We don't get all of it. That's due to Tony's due diligence in getting the money from E-rate, which is not easy.
Any other questions?
Not on that.
Alright.
Can I ask some questions on the cash report, or are you moving forward on it? I don't wanna get ahead of things.
No,
So,
that's fine.
James Imaging, I know we lease the copiers. It seems like $5,300 a month is a huge number. How many copiers do we have? That's a lot of money.
We have, off the top of my head, 6 multi-function printers, copy machines.
Okay.
Um,
And those are all the ones we lease?
Yep, that's, yeah, that's what we lease. Well, we also have fax machines.
That we lease?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And then the only other thing I had was, on the check report, it shows check numbers. And then there's, I don't know if those are actual numbers, or if you do like an ACH, do you just put it in a blanket? Cause there's 25 different
Well, the
payees.
there's actually checks, and
Yeah.
then there's wire transfers.
Would a wire transfer say wire transfer?
I believe it says WT.
See, this has check number 2024000081. There's 25 different
That is a wire
payees.
transfer. Yeah.
Okay. How would I know that so I don't have to bother you on it?
Let me see if I can find it. Is there a way for it? I usually,
Just go in sequence.
I usually say when I do the checks.
Oh, I
that
got
they're
ahead of
check
you.
numbers and
Okay.
that, yeah. It's
Sorry.
okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Trying to move on to 4C. I'm sorry, 5C.
Is that the checks?
Yeah. Accounts payable.
Oh, I just- yeah.
October 10th through November 13th, 2024. We issued checks 103499 to 103595 and wire transfers 20240070 to 2024000092 in the total amount of $535,437.67. I do have a couple of things that I wanted to relay. At the end of October, you'll notice there's less than $1 million in the PMA WISC account. That's because we're close to the end. You'll also see that it's about a little over 85% spent in Fund 49. It's because we're done with most of the major projects. So now there's just the little bits and pieces that need to be cleared up. I did make a transfer to the special ed fund for $284,273 to cover expenses that they aren't earning enough income for. That way, I'm not making a huge $1 million transfer at the end of the year from the general fund to the special ed fund. We're now a third of the way through the 24-25 fiscal year. You also notice on the expense summary that insurance is almost 83% spent. That's because we paid the property and liability insurance at the beginning of the year. We also received a dividend and premium refund of $5,551, which shows up in miscellaneous refunds. We received a grant from Speak Up, Speak Out for $1,000 we were not anticipating. We continue to have a healthy amount of interest from the LGIP. It was $8,450, which is phenomenal. It is down from 5.23 last month to 4.93, but it's still giving us a nice rate of return. And then due to the third Friday count in September, open enrollment figures changed to the good of about a little over $7,100. We have less open enrollment income coming in, but we also have a lot less open enrollment going out. So that may change again in the January count, second Friday count in January. So I don't know if we want to revise the budget just yet, just to reflect the current changes, or if we want to wait and see in January when we do that.
Is there often a big change?
When students apply to open enroll out or open enroll in, we don't know for sure they're coming until they actually show up.
Okay.
Because sometimes they apply to 3 different school districts at the same time, and we don't know where we are on their preference list.
I guess my question is more like historically, is there a big change in January? 2 or 3 kids, could be more.
There's not much, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's not much of a change.
We just.
I think
you
we
know,
just, go ahead.
No, what Jean, pretty much receives these in, but we received 3 applications for choice, to come in. And so we've approved those because they're within the limits set by the board. But that again gets reported to them and to DPI, and then it's a matter if they follow up now.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's gonna change again.
There you go.
I'm just
There's your
telling you.
answer.
Okay.
Can I just ask one other question concerning the referendum investment money, that we have a lot additional than what we anticipated. Is that all spoken for at this point? I know that we did the playground and some other things. But is that all
Kind
spoken
of.
for? Okay.
Kind of.
It's not spoken for, other than we do have a list of priority needs,
Okay.
that we would look at and review, including various roofing work that could be done. It's a matter of what we have versus what we could fit into that and how that fits with our priority.
Okay.
So I would be reviewing that with Tom, in Lou,
Right.
and coming back, to the board in terms of advising.
Okay.
We're just looking in terms of trying to get a new report on our interest earnings, that are part of that. And so they were, kind of conservative in this projection, and they came in a little bit higher, and so we have to account for that, so.
Right.
We
We
are
will be back.
we are not over the arbitrage amount,
Right.
so we don't have to
Right.
give the IRS anything.
Right.
I'm happy about that.
Right. Okay, good, thanks.
Any other questions on accounts payables? Great. Can I get a motion to approve B and C, treasurer's report and accounts payable bills?
I'll make a motion to approve B and C as presented.
Seeking a second. I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 5D, personnel hires, resignation, and leaves.
So what we have today under the consent agenda is we have lunchroom supervisor aides, in terms of we have 1 resignation and 2 appointments at 0.31 FTE equivalent. And we also have a special education aide at a 0.71 in terms of an appointment. And then we also have received a resignation of Ali Medina, excuse me. And I would just have to comment, I've spent a great deal of time with her, and it is going to be a loss. And it raises some challenges on a number of different fronts. And I will talk about that a little bit more in the administrative report, but I gained so much insight in terms of how far we've come, in so many areas, but there's still challenges there in terms of how we're moving forward. And that's going to take, some discussion in terms of where do we want to go, how do we want to get there, how does it compare to past staffing to now. So anyways, I'll wait until I move into the administrative report.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the hires and resignations as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the hires and resignations as presented.
Okay, seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Number 6A, right back to you,
Yeah,
Jim.
interim district administrator, I really had three priorities to convey to you that I'm working on in terms of trying to get my arms around that, to engage the board, and one was the referendum, which just surfaced, and so we will be following up on that. The two other ones are central office staffing. You have a sense of that. And it's complicated on a number of different fronts. If you just, probably reflect back, you're aware that we potentially could have a retirement with our business manager. She's identified, of that possibility. So planning for that. And then, on top of that, I have a subsequent action that I'm asking you for in terms of making sure that we're in a position where we can manage those transitions, as well as possibly how we might look in restructuring the same way or different options. So you have that. You have Ollie's. Both of those are two really connected. That's a really significant shift there, in terms of transition, I should say. And then on top of that, also, I'm just very fortunate that Jean came back out of retirement and is working, but she can only work half-time, and she splits her time a little bit, primarily with me, but she fills in the morning. And so that's really difficult. Every time I want to get up and see Jean, Jean's not here because she can only work half-time. And I recognize, I believe that there was discussions before of possibly, some restructuring and some, that would be something that I would want to assist you with based on what your needs are, to discuss options. But that's a critical one too, because that's not only assists me, assists you. And because of the change, there are other opportunities. And we wouldn't also lose Jean because
Not yet.
not let, and also Jean has, talked with me in terms of, she goes in with the student office, and so there's always more need sometimes than there is bodies, and so we're very appreciative of people that, including the subs. I'm just amazed at how many subs come out that were teachers here in the past, and they still have this desire to be part of this district in terms of coming back, and a lot of that's more volunteering than getting paid, because I think it's because they love what they've done here and they want to carry that on, and I'm very appreciative of that. So that's one of the priority areas. The other one is on standards-based grading. I indicated that I thought it was important, that we kind of regroup. Following your lead in terms of establishing committees, I suggested actually a very important committee, and that would be on the curriculum and instructional area. But you can do that in different ways, and we kind of settled, well, why don't we start with almost like a meeting with the whole board, and we can do that. But the first thing that I'm working with Carrie is, first of all, is what is it that we need to know on the subject matter, and then wanting to really kind of take an inventory of all our stakeholders in terms of what they know and understand. And obviously the most important place is where our teachers are at, our faculty, in terms of do they understand it, are they supportive, and Carrie and I have both talked about the benefits of when you get up to 80% support from your stakeholders, you have a winning game plan, for the most part. And so what we want to do is survey, that type of, here's information on this, what do you know, what do you, and are you supportive, and to kind of take that inventory, and then coming back in terms of engaging the board, and then also opening that up at some point in time with parents, so that we were really working to create understanding and buy-in, with that. So that's kind of where we're at. We'll be back. And Carrie and I haven't really had a chance, other than kind of setting those parameters about how to start this to engage, all our stakeholders.
Okay.
Thank you. 6B, celebrations.
Yeah, I've got four. One advanced celebration for John Murphy, director of the band, and that they're going to the Bucks game, tonight, in terms of what a wonderful acknowledgement. And I have to tell you, every morning when I walk in the halls, both the students and the faculty, there's such a level of pride in the school district, and I recognize we've got problems. You can't have all these kids in here and not have some challenges. But I have never felt in a place where there seems to be such a desire to be here. And that's really testament to where you're at today and your past, and hopefully that carries us through transitions, to the extent. But it's a real joy coming to work here. I'd carry that off to being able to sit in and watch some of the girls' basketball games. So I'm speaking from my own personal enjoyment here in terms of both watching Derek and Carla with their basketball teams, and not only are they having I've never seen such aggressive play at such a early age, but it's exciting, in terms of what we're really doing to get into that. And again, I think that's testimony in terms of what the faculty and staff have done, to create this culture and this environment for students to succeed. And the last thing I really want to do, and it kind of extends us out into the really important work, and we'll be having a presentation here shortly on the report card in terms of, but I was kind of blown away with what Carrie had done with her pre-K and elementary staff, inviting parents and their children in for a literacy night. And it was amazing in terms of well-attended, first time. And while I could see some challenges of talking about some technical language, we do really a lot of jargon in education, and we're talking about Scarborough's rope and stuff like this, and yet the parents are engaged and they're just listening. And then they went to stations to watch their kids. And it was really exciting, but that's that partnership where kids start owning their work, but you have that understanding and support of parents, but that only happens if we reach out. And again, acknowledgement to Carrie and her staff in terms of putting that in, because there was a lot of work, and we had plenty of pizza. So anyways, those are just some things that I wanted to share that are really exciting about what's happening here.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Going on to Carrie for the school report card presentation.
You should have copies of this as well, but I did put it in slides just to break up the school report card into different sections. I did this process last year with the board because the school report card can be complicated to look at. DPI uses various formulas and different measures to put it together, and this report card is no different than years past, other than there are some slight changes to this year. And so I wanted to note some of the changes that have been made in this year's report card before really digging in. So the first item to note is that standard setting has changed. So by that meaning the standards that we were assessed on this year were changed in the last year's in the spring assessment, and this resulted in also a change of some cut scores, which looks like we have higher proficiency rates. Now I don't want to not celebrate higher proficiency rates, but I also want to temper that celebration with the fact that the cut scores were reduced, and so it looks like a significant jump. With that in mind, what DPI did is they created a one-year adjustment. So when we look at our achievement score on the report card, they basically put weights on everybody's achievement score to bring it back down to the level that is comparable year to year on the school report cards. And so the 23-24 report card is kind of like a one-off. So it's a little bit difficult to compare to other years just because of all the changes. But there are pieces I think that we can still compare and celebrate. The performance levels on the forward exam shifted to advanced, meeting, approaching, and developing. Previously, those performance levels were advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. So more of a strengths-based approach in the language there. And then there's a new reporting group that we have as of this year. We don't, for confidentiality purposes, the report card never shared information for groups that were fewer than 20 students. We have a group of the group of students of 2 or more races. We now have consistently more than 20 students, and so that is a new category that's reported for the first time on this report card. So just you'll see a change as we go through some of these items. So the overall first thing I want to share is we are exceeding expectations. We're continuing to do so, and that is a huge, huge celebration. It's a very slight drop from last year. We went down 1.1 points. So, a drop is always a little nerve-wracking, but it's still within that exceeding expectations realm. But wanted to be transparent that it is a little bit of a drop. So celebrations. Our overall score, like I said, is the exceeds expectations range, and you can see where how DPI rates the different schools and where we fall into those categories. Also want to celebrate that our achievement score is at the same or higher than almost 81% of K-8 schools in the state. So we are outperforming significantly, so that's very exciting. And then while I mentioned earlier, we are at 64.4 meeting in advanced in ELA and 63.6 meeting in advanced in math. Last year, those numbers were in the 50s. Again, that's just in part due to a change in the proficiency level. However, there's some indication that we still did increase in our overall proficiency. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we jump into the achievement scores. So school report card, the overall score is created by weighting 4 areas. 2 areas are always 25%, so on track to graduation and our target group. And then 2 areas shift based on our demographics. And so when we have a higher percentage of students who have low socioeconomic status, then the weight shifts more into growth and less shifts out of achievement a little bit more. So we did have a slight fluctuation of our socioeconomic status. Last year, achievement was weighted at 36.2 and growth at 13.8. So that means basically that we had an increase in the number of students who have low socioeconomic status, and so more of a focus then on our growth. Overall, so this is also on the front page of the report card. It breaks down those priority area scores. And again, I'll go into each of these more detail, but just one thing to notice and that I pointed out earlier is that we are outperforming the state in every single area. And so achievement actually went up a little bit this year from last year. It was a 1/10 of a point lower last year, so I'll take any bit of growth. But nonetheless, it did go up. And why I think that this is important to note here is because one of the things that changed, and I have the what's new for the report card, schools and districts can expect to see achievement scores that are greater than or equal to their 22-23 score, but not as high as it would be without a scale adjustment. So basically that scale adjustment that DPI put on it, they basically put weights on our achievement score. And so next year I would imagine then that this number is going to be higher because they're using the new cut scores, and so they're going to be shifting some things there. So exciting to see that there's some growth in that. Like I mentioned, another celebration. Performance levels by year. Unfortunately, in years past, they had multiple years that they could show, but because the levels, advanced, meeting, approaching, and developing, because those labels changed, they can't compare year to year, and so you can't see what that is. If we were to compare, like I said, what's in the purple and the blue this year, last year was called advanced and proficient, and that was again 54% for English and math. So 10% jump, which seems like a lot, but again, remember that that's a change in the cut scores as well. Our growth score is also quite high, 76.5, so higher than 58.5% of schools in the state. The growth dropped a little bit from last year. I think we had a really high amount of growth in 21, 22, and 22, 23 because those were our post-COVID years. We came back fully in person, all of that COVID stuff, and so we saw a lot of growth in those first 2 years, and so now it's kind of tapering off a little bit here. Again, that's more of an inference, I suppose, professional inference on that one. On this part of the report card, this shows a breakdown of where students fall specific to certain groups and how they perform, what their growth looked like on English and math. And so you can see that once again this year, and this is very consistent with what we saw last year, our students are all above average. So that line in the middle represents what's average growth. So anything that's to the right of that line is above average growth. So we are not only high achieving, but we're also seeing above average growth. Like I mentioned earlier, we now have that new reporting category, though, this 2 or more races, which is slightly below average growth. And so that's something that we're definitely going to need to keep an eye on. Again, it's the first time we've seen this data. And so now that we have it, it's something that we will dig into and look at.
Carrie's the all students number 448.
So this is the number of students who take the Wisconsin Forward exam. So it's
okay.
only students in grades 3 through 8. That's a great question. Yes, because on the report card itself, it will give you an overall enrollment, which says 814.
Yeah.
But we don't test for the entire school building. So yes, it's about half of the number of kids.
Thank you.
Yes, great question. I think I skipped over. Okay, good. Target group outcomes. Target group outcomes, this is a score that represents students who have performed in the bottom 25%, includes anybody who could have taken the assessment. So that's, it includes students who have IEPs, students who have language plans, students who are brand new to us, students who have been with us forever. And so, it covers the gamut of students in here. So just having awareness that it's considering all of those students, and then it's those bottom 25%. So we have, again, a relatively high target group score, but this is the area that I want to dig into the most moving forward with my staff. This one we did see another decrease. I do have questions that I need to follow up with DPI about some of the areas because our overall scores in this area didn't really change much from last year to this year, but somehow our priority area scores changed. So there's some questions that I have about that. All in all, I'm not overly concerned about it. We're still performing well, but just something to be looking at and digging into. Component scores, this just breaks down the target group scores actually takes all of the scores that are on the full report card and then just looks at for just that sample size of students. And so I put a big star on the one that I'm really excited about. And this is the same last year as well. For our students in that bottom 25%, they are growing more than the students who are already achieving. So that means that our lowest performing students are growing faster than our highest performing students, which is what we want to see to close gaps. And so that's really, really exciting. On the other side, or with math, it's not quite as much with the growth piece of it, but we're catching up there. And so that's another place where we're going to be digging into again and looking at our lowest performing students and making sure that they are making those great gains. The first box too, so that achievement, that again, each one, it shows a comparison of the target group is in green. Again, that represents the lowest 25% of students, and so that's just a comparison of the gap of, okay, the kids that are in the 25th percentile and above, and then compared to the ones at the very bottom. And so there's definitely some gaps there, and so that's consistent again with what we saw last year. In fact, I believe the scores are relatively the same that we saw last year in those groups. We're doing very well with attendance and absenteeism. We've actually improved some scores in those over the last couple of years, so that's been a big improvement post-COVID. That was a concern initially, getting attendance back up, but we have gotten a lot of growth in there. On track to graduation is kind of a funky area for K-8 schools because there are pieces that we don't have included in ours. So the on track to graduation score, really high, nice score for us. We're doing quite well. But it looks at, again, absenteeism, attendance, and then it just pinpoints for us 3rd and 8th grade math. For high school, they look at a couple other points. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. But overall, we're doing quite well and on track to graduation, and no major concerns in that area. In case you were wondering, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I will flash it up, and I know you had access to this, but just to kind of see what the different scores were over the years, and just kind of getting a sense of that. There was a shift in the report card format, I'm trying to remember what year, if it was 2021 or 1819. I think 1819 was the old version of the, 1819 was the old version of the report card. So you're going to see a really big jump from 1819. So this is where, when people decide what the changing the cut scores looks like, impacts what this overall score is. And then these report cards, while can be useful, are also hard to compare over time, because in 1819 it looks like, oh my God, we had a huge jump, but the cut scores changed again. So very interesting to look at, what those differences are. So moving forward, one of the places that I've already started work with my instructional leadership team is just closely monitoring our growth, continuing to support our students in the target group. Act 20 with the whole literacy, early literacy piece, while it's not focusing on our students that take the forward exam, that just pays off in the future years. So while we might not see the initial benefit for those students currently in 4K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, the kids in third grade that are getting some of those specific supports through Act 20, we're going to see changes with them, and then eventually we're going to really start seeing some growth with the Act 20 interventions. Not to mention we already have amazing interventions in place, as evidenced by our reading growth outpacing, for our target group, outpacing target group. Definitely digging more into our math interventions, and then just continuing to look at our classroom and system data. So just want to say thank you for allowing me to present, and also just having the amazing support of our families and the community, because this score isn't just a representation of what we do here at Bristol, right? We know that a lot of what happens at home and what happens in the community impacts how our students perform, and we can't do it without everybody's support, and really proud to say that we have a great partnership going with the community. Any questions?
Thank you, Carrie. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions?
I just wanted to say, I was just going to say thank you so much for your leadership. It's so exciting for our students, and there's a lot of people in the classroom who makes it happen, and so I'm very appreciative for that. So thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, very, very proud of them. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you. All right. Number 7, public comments. Be sure to sign in if anybody wants to speak. I have the sign-up sheet. Members of the board may ask questions for clarification and briefly discuss the matter as permitted in accordance with state statute, but may not take any action on any items unless it's on the agenda. All visitors are asked to identify themselves before speaking. In accordance with board policy, each individual will be allocated 3 minutes. Sorry. We have the timer. Nicole has the timer. The first one is Ashley Nelson.
Hi, Ashley Nelson. I'm teacher here at Bristol. This is my 4th year. Just wanted to share some comments and observations from attending these meetings, reading the board minutes, and engaging with the Bristol community more on these matters. And unfortunately, it's resulted in a lot of feelings of disappointment. I was disappointed to see that the board is more concerned about whether or not we have lights in our classroom than if we have a social emotional learning curriculum at the classroom level that goes beyond 4K, which is currently the only grade band to offer any kind of social emotional curriculum. This is something that would have a direct and powerful impact on our students on a daily basis, and we are seeing a huge need for it. I was also disappointed to see that according to board minutes, the board is spending $35,000 in lawyer fees, which is up significantly from previous years, when we have the blue rubber on the playground that is in desperate need of repair. There are cones on it constantly. It is a safety hazard. That is something that is directly impacting not only our students, but our community members at large. We have two huge neighborhoods right next to the school, and those kids are playing here every day on a safety hazard. I was also disappointed to see that several of our board members do not seem to have a strong understanding of the laws and procedures involved in running a school board meeting. After countless closed session meetings these past few months, you should not need to be told what the procedure for going into closed session is, but that is exactly what I witnessed last week when I attended the closed session meeting for the portion that was open to the public. I was also very disappointed that during the September 18th board meeting, our board president, Tina Elfring, reportedly had no celebrations to share under the agenda item board president celebration. When Tom Blair shared his celebrations, that was noted on the board minutes.
1 minute.
But there was nothing under that item. This was our first board meeting after staff came back after a summer where they couldn't get into their classrooms due to the renovations. They put in countless blood, sweat, and tears and hours to make the school look ready. There was broken AC, and yet you had nothing to say to us, Tina? That felt like a huge slap in the face. That was a huge disappointment. I was also disappointed to hear that community members have called and harassed former board members for the decisions they made in their capacity as board members. I was also disappointed to see that it seems like Tina Elfring has made it her mission to out Jack Musha from this board. When he had his contract renewed, in a vote of 4-1, she was the only one who voted against reappointing him. After he put in so much work to get the referendum passed and to give us this beautiful building. Thank you.
Next is Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz O'Flaherty. I'm a parent as well as a substitute teacher here. I'm here as concerned parent and a sub at the school. I love having my kids at Bristol School because I trust the staff here to teach my children. They are experts in the fields and putting countless hours to be the best teachers they can be. My concern is growing as I learn about more and more staff resigning or planning on retiring after this year. How many more staff members will we lose this year? On top of Jack Musha is still missing. Where is Jack? You have promised us that you're not looking to replace him, but it's been almost 3 months now that we haven't heard anything. It's time for you to be held accountable to the community and explain to us what is going on. In addition, I just want to know what your goals are for this school year. Since this board has taken over, I haven't heard one plan, one area you hope to improve. We have only heard about lawyer fees and the pledge. You shot down standards-based grading, which I could say any teacher would tell you that is the way to go, and have been slowly dismantling this school. Is that your plan? To get rid of all the good we have built here for over the years. It's time for you to step back and do your jobs instead of trying to do the jobs that you are not qualified for and let these teachers teach.
Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Boonhawk. I'm here to ask the school board for the truth regarding Jack Musha, his absence. I did an open records request for correspondence between the board and Jim File, and this is the information I received. On Friday, September 6th, an email went to staff and family stating that Tom Blair would fill in while Jack was on approved medical leave. Then on Tuesday, September 10th, Jim File sent an email saying he looked forward to tomorrow's Zoom meeting, which would have been September 11th. But there's no meeting agenda for September 11th. If Tom Blair is taking administrative duties on Friday, why was Jim File already set up for a meeting on Tuesday? On September 11th, Jim File emailed his resume to Shayna Lewis, the school's lawyer, Tina Elfring, and Joanne Gray. On September 12th, there's an email from Danielle Whitaker to Tina Elfring asking, are we expecting to interview any other options at this time? Tina Elfring replied, not at this time unless needed. The job opening was never posted, which breaks school policy. There was an interview on September 13th from 3 to 4 p.m. where Tina Elfring said to prepare questions ahead of time because there was limited time. Wouldn't a board want enough time to thoroughly vet a future leader of our school, especially one that comes with a controversial background? On September 18th, there was a contract sent to Jim File. The email states they need a flexible contract because they need him to replace, quote, replace the current administrator while he's on an approved leave of absence through at least September 30th, but is likely to last longer due to a possible extended medical leave, administrative leave, and or resignation. Isn't that interesting? The board then took action and approved File's contract in an undisclosed open session on September 20th. The action taken by the board was illegal, and they were notified. However, no follow-up actions were taken. Once the contract was approved, staff and family received another email explaining that File was hired to support Bristol School and assured us that this decision is not an attempt to replace Jack Musha during his approved leave of absence. After all of these special meetings, school board predicted the future. They expected an upcoming administrative leave, which seemingly happened on September 30th, possibly courtesy of this school board. Are they also planning to force a resignation? While I understand HR information is private and confidential, the possibility of and the hiring of an interim district administrator should have been an open session. The process could have been easily open to the public without an open records request. So why wasn't it? Mentioning an investigation for several months without Mr. Musha here sets an uneasy feeling in the community. Jack Musha is a man of integrity who works hard for his staff and students, which is why you see many of them here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 8, committee updates. Finance committee updates.
We have no update. We have canceled our meeting for November and we'll try to schedule them in December.
Okay. Policy committee updates.
We are moving right along. We have about 12 more policies out of the Neola package to get through or read through. And then hopefully that will be done at the next meeting and then we'll move on to April.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the ones that are on the agenda this evening?
Yeah, does anyone have questions about those?
I have no questions.
I don't either.
Going on to the wellness one, this is one that we,
That's the one in the audit that we failed and our original one was fully outdated and it's like we almost had to rewrite the whole thing. Well, we didn't rewrite it, I should say Neola, their
And we
presentation.
failed that in the 23-24, right? And we got actually, did we get fined?
I don't know if we actually got
And then I thought we already approved a change. Didn't we approve a new
we did,
policy over the
but
summer?
then the packet that came from Neola, that they put changes and stuff, it was in there again.
Okay.
So,
it's to
there's a few
update.
new, yeah, there's a few,
Okay.
there's a few.
So,
new stuff.
yeah, just to kind of recap, over the summer, we did look at wellness, right, over the summer. So what the committee is doing for the policy committee is that wellness and food services was moved up. The other ones that are bullet pointed on the agenda, those are ones that Neola gave us as necessary updates for consideration, and so
Well, the
then.
wellness and food was in
Yeah, those,
Yeah.
yeah, so those two, plus the ones that are here are bullet
Yeah.
pointed, we have another 10 or so to go.
Yeah, 12.
And then the policy committee meets, we reviewed all the language and then presented suggestions, which is what we're looking at right now. We're just looking at the checkbox suggestions per the committee that met.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, and then they went over to Mr. File from an admin perspective, they got his 2 thumbs up on them, and so then this is what we're seeing is the work of the policy, committee and Jay looking at it too.
Considered a second
Yeah,
reading.
that was considered the first reading, so this is the final.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking over the changes, they're minor changes. They're either,
There's nothing huge. I think the only
A
biggest
name.
one that we fully had was that very last one, administration of medication and emergency care. We did have to consult with, Whitney on some medication she keeps in the nurse's office. So we did ask for her recommendation on a couple of the checked items.
Okay.
I think the biggest.
Does anybody have any changes or questions on the changes that they recommend, the committee is recommending?
No, I don't have any specific questions. I guess my only question is, all of these changes, were they all unanimous amongst the committee members?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it was, it was very helpful to
Excellent.
have, the couple teachers and Mr. Blair in it to actually show or tell us how the school's running and what they're doing and
Right.
helps with the policy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we've had differences that have been like minor in how we would approach things, and it's been really invaluable, and I'm thankful to, we have two staff members and Mr. Blair who was there, and so they let us know how we're doing things in practice, and so
Mhm.
the intention is that a lot of our policies match what we're doing in practice,
Right,
and
so
so there's
everyone's
strength in
covered.
there.
Mhm.
Even things like example with, like the medications, there's certain things that we do in practice, which ones Neola puts forward, we should make sure we're matching what we're doing.
Right.
And so, we're just suggesting the options they give us and then making sure it matches what we're currently doing. And yeah, we've been really unified and everything, yeah. Yeah.
That's good to know.
So do we have to vote on this?
We get a motion to approve the
10.
10 changes, as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 10 policy changes as presented.
Seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 9A, notice of school board election process and dates.
Do we have to approve,
We have to,
approve these? No, we don't have to approve policy, committee meeting minutes.
no,
No.
that, we took that off.
We just,
Oh, I did see two, I printed the wrong one.
That's the old one.
Okay.
oh, and a note, we're working on, and I believe it might be, but with our policy meeting, we always have the agenda, and then the minutes are there too, so if people wanna see more detail, I try and keep up in the meetings, but we move fast, but there's more detail there, if people wanna see some of the conversations we're having.
I apologize. I started.
Perfect. Excuse me. Do you wanna go over this, or Jean, do you wanna go over this?
You can go over it.
All right. School district election schedule, 2025 spring election is among us. November 26th, deadline for newspaper publications for type A. Notice of election, prepared packets for potential candidates. December 1st, deadline, earliest date for nomination papers. December 27th, deadline for encumbrance to file notice of non-candidacy by 5 o'clock. January 7th is candidate deadline for filing all ballot access documents by 5 o'clock. January 14th, drawing of lots for ballot order. February 18th, spring primary election if needed. On or before March 30th, choosing board of canvassers. April 1st, spring election, on or about April 1st. Issue open meeting law notice of board of canvassers meeting. April 2nd through the 8th, canvass of election returns. Written determination of election results. On or before April 28th, school board members take and file official oath. April 28th, school board members take office. April 28th to May 28th, election of school board officers.
Thank you.
We will have 2 seats coming up. So can I get a motion to approve the notice as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the notice as presented.
Seeking a second?
Jean, I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 9B, resolution of designation public depositories. Do you wanna
This
go
is
over
an
that?
annual resolution that just gives notice to everyone in the community of what banking facilities, financial institutions that we utilize to run the day-to-day activities of the district. It didn't change from last year, it's the same banks. that
Same
we
banks.
use, Same banks.
Alright, I'll make a motion to approve, the document that we have in our BOE only folder, for the 2024-2025 public depositories.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. We can sign this afterwards, if you're okay with that? Okay. Moving on to C. Move that over to you, Jim.
C is the, for the state conference that's coming up, and so there's always the appointment of a state delegate, a selection of a board delegate and alternate. Now, again, I don't know if people are attending. Go ahead.
Sorry, I skipped
You
them.
skipped it.
I
You
skipped
wanted
one.
to go there.
Yep, I was going the wrong
Okay.
one.
That's okay.
Danielle, you went to that last
I didn't
year.
go to the WASB State Conference. I am heavily considering it. I just have to move a couple things. But I could
To
go
attend to it?
Yeah, to go to it in January. It's in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Do you want me to do we have to choose a delegate today, or can we do that in the December meeting if I officially go?
I believe we
I
can,
have to double check dates. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I have to double check.
They sent an email out today asking for our information as to who is going to do this. But if we don't have that information, then I have to get back to them, let them know when we will have the information for the delegate.
did it have a deadline on it?
I don't truthfully remember if it did.
Okay. We can, add this to the December one.
That, or we could approve Nicole and I being potential delegates, so we took board action in a meeting, and then we can determine and then update everyone in December if they have a deadline, which would then not slow it down.
Any of that
If
process.
everyone's comfortable with that. So
Okay.
you could just name us as co-delegates, and then we'll decide if both of us are going or one of us is going.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So I'll make a motion for Nicole and Danielle to be WASB State Delegates Assembly people.
Sure.
We'll also put that on our December calendar agenda just for an update.
Yeah, confirm.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of that, say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Now,
So this was what I was referring to earlier in terms of, I reached out to CISA-FI. CISA-FI has created a niche marketing area in terms of where they have provided business services for local school districts in the state, not just in their service area. CISA-2, I believe, is entering this area, but I don't think that they have the experience that CISA-FI has. With the understanding, of the potential retirement that could even take place, possibly even before the end of the year, even though we're still, kind of looking at that. I felt like we needed to have an understanding about where we stand in our business operations. I believe we are, even in talking with Sue, when Sue started, there was really a lack of documentation and, practices and procedures. We still have a lack of documentation. So I am, elevated level of concern there, and now we have Ali on top of this, of just making sure that we understand, and are in a ready state to move, and so I feel like I'll get some good information there in terms of where they'll come in and kind of help assess. And they would also have something where if anything would really happen, then we would have to have a situation where we need some coordination with payroll, that could easily be extended. But this is kind of a starting place to, see what that initial assessment, so I'd ask for your support there, so that I could start opening up, a little bit deeper understanding of where we're at with business services and what our options might be.
Is there a reason I know you don't mind this opinion, but is there a reason schools don't use it?
I used that in a previous position, and that was a district of about 800. I mean, those are options, there are options sometimes Neurocisa could do that.
It just seems like that's a big piece that could be taken off of somebody's plate because it's consistent.
Yeah, I think my goal always is leveraging resources to provide the biggest impact in the classroom.
Right.
And with the lowest overhead,
Yeah.
And that's no, but there's some really challenges that we have here because we've done some things because the capability of staff. As an example, here's a new one now that concerns me, is we left board docs, and that's the development of, we developed our own platform for managing school board meetings, in minutes and committee meetings and the like, okay? That's all on Google Docs, but only one person is really familiar, with that. And so it's critical in terms of what can happen during transitions. We have a very knowledgeable tech staff, but we aren't built to support that. In my last district, I knew I would have had, so there are some challenges here in terms of, but there are options though too. I mean,
Yeah.
we used to have, and I don't want to underestimate what it takes to deliver quality work at all levels. Most definitely, we recognize what we heard today regarding our instructional program, but it's very important that the rest of the organization is supporting that work. But you had 3 positions at once, and now you have a little bit more. But things have gotten, sophisticated. I don't want you to just think we can lower costs, but that would always be my objective is making sure that most of the money was going towards the classroom, and the instructional support for that. But you do have to, obviously, staffing is an important part. HR is an important, component. You can make mistakes. Right now, making sure contracts are consistent. I mean, so we're still, and I think that there's been a lot of cleanup, and I think Ollie brought an awful lot to that, but she has a unique skill set in terms of not only, I think, an HR ability level, but communications, what she was really hired for, and then she got, very good tech skills as well as organizational skills. So her work has expanded out and really created that position, but again, everything comes with a cost, and everything comes with how do you manage that in the long term. So I'm very impressed with what's taken place. I just have to ensure that we continue that, and what are our options for doing that? But so again, I think, in kind of the lean management, type in terms of that's.
Yeah.
But again, you have to know where you're at, and you can't just assume that it's a snap of the finger or whatever to get to where you really want to be. It's one thing, I always suggest that to get to a higher plateau of operations, you first got to go over a high mountain peak.
Right.
Come down to that, so getting there is harder than maintaining it, but once I've had situations where there was no HR department, was managed by the superintendent and administrative secretary. But again, everything was established, it was pretty routine.
And is that what, sorry if this is
No.
a silly question, but the CISA information that you sent us is basically to help get a handle on all of that information and give a direction, not to hire them.
No,
to stay.
that's a possibility, for example, they could do payroll.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that. Now, that's not bidding out to see what other services. I had a contracted, independent contractor who,
Yeah.
did HR payroll services. So there are different options. Things get sophisticated, and you have to know the state system.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I would think, and I haven't seen it here, is the shortage of teachers and superintendents and central office folks is really limited. You were very successful here for the most part, attracting and retaining your faculty. You just have to make sure that you also have the support services to allow them to do their job.
I have a few questions about the service quote. Is when you have the option for 3 days on-site, 7 days virtual, so is this these are monthly, is this for the year?
This is just for a time period of this year, using those days, you know, they'd come in to do some analysis. They're very equipped to understand and work remotely, you know, in terms of this nature of this services. So this was the starting place. I asked for something, this is what they proposed.
Okay.
You know, and I would be, you know, getting them immediately hooked up with Sue and to do some,
What is this per month? Or is this?
that's
It's
a
more-
day, it's a day cost, and so right now,
Because it comes to 10 days, so.
that they're projecting a 10-day, and it's an estimate, you know, as well
Yeah.
as what they would charge if they were doing payroll.
Yeah, I think this is more of a, the way that they
Laid
formatted
out,
this is
yeah.
not as crystal clear
Yeah.
as it would like to be. Initial question would just be, it says they can be terminated by either party with a 30-day written notice, so we could discontinue this once we create a decision on structure. And then, I can't certainly tell, like, the total estimated cost of $83.10, is that through the balance of the school year or month?
I would say that, you know, that's a not to exceed. I got a time period of this year, you know, but I would be monitoring that, reporting that back to you and going along. You know, if something further developed, and again, it's not that their expertise is in the HR, you know,
Yeah.
but we have had business operations that handle that function.
Yeah.
And in fact, that responsibility is still in Sue's job description. I mean, so those are things to kind of sort out, and they're part of that assistance.
Now, if we were to take this on, would we end any type of subscriptions, programs, or anything, because they would be doing it, where it would help them
No.
offset some costs?
No, this is, you know, other than what it receive and an understanding in terms of.
This is just telling us where we're going and the outlook of where we're going.
What seems to be in place, what you might want to do.
This isn't doing anything.
Right.
Oh, okay.
This is
Unless
not
I'm
transferring
understanding.
service over, no, you're absolutely
Oh,
correct.
okay.
It's much more of a consulting, you know, service right now at this point,
So the consulting goes for 10 days only.
on 10 days only.
10 days only for $8,310. And the description of services is overall review of current business office structure, help develop budget monitoring tools / process for the district and board, and other business office duties as assigned by superintendent. I mean, to me, it seems very vague as to what we're asking of them at this point for $8,310. And when I look at, you know, the second item here, help develop budget monitoring tools / process for district and board, that's something we've been working on with the finance committee, that's part of what we've been working on. You know, we have a community member that is just, you know, excellent at putting, you know, this type of thing together. So I guess, you know, without more specifics, examples, testimonials from CISA 5, I mean, I would have a tough time spending $8,310 for the description of services on this paper. I just don't know where this is taking us, and I guess, again, I come back to help develop budget monitoring tools for district board. They're gonna come back to us and they're gonna tell us, well, you know, we could do this, and this for us. Is that then another 20 days at $16,620 to get that accomplished? I don't know. Maybe you do, Jim.
You know, this is a little bit of assistance with peeling back the onion, you know, in terms of knowing what we have and what I need to consider, you know, in terms of any decisions, you know, even in terms of what options for staffing your central office. We've got, you know, 2 key people here that are leaving, plus you've been without a full-time administrative assistant. And a lot of work has to continue on, and, you know, my concern is, you know, I don't think that Sue has made a determination in her mind, other than, you know, she shared with me, you know, is that things could change where she might even have to leave early. Or she could be there, and if you needed some extra assistance, I mean, so we go all over, you know, I'm just trying to, and again, I'm only in the interim role, trying to make sure you're equipped for you, if you have any transitional periods to get through.
When you say our documentation is lean or non-existent, is this something that would, and I don't know how we keep that, is that stuff that should be in Skyward, which I've heard is outdated? Another
But
program
with
that
their,
schools are using.
you know, for example, we were just
Great.
discussing in terms of, you know, we should have a tighter inventory control, you know, in terms of where we're recording and have a recognition of the equipment and tools that we buy. And we have a beginning and ending balance. We don't do that. I mean, we do things, you know, that we have to do reporting of, or, you know, but, you know, so we don't have a tight ship.
And so that's what the CISA would do, is give
A
you a
little-
list of all of those things that we need to do.
Actually, I mean, I know, you know, for example, right now, I would say Ali is really a good documenter, you know, who, you know, has spent a great time in terms of even establishing some of our systems, and has, you know, I'm expecting that I'm gonna get a great deal of that. I don't know that Sue's in that same place, even though Sue has been working to try to, you know, follow Ali's lead, you know, with kind of preparing some documentation. I don't know if you have any status that you could share of where you're at, or if you want to add to that.
I'm working on it. It's hard to get back and forth doing that and everything else, but I'm listing it by month, all of the responsibilities that I have. And I'm sure when this group comes in, I actually witnessed groups come in to help reorganize when people start leaving positions. And I've seen really good things happen when you get advice about what other districts have done, you know, listing the total amount of personnel, students in the building. It's a reorganization consultation. So what is the best way? I mean, should I be doing food service claims? Or should that be an assistance position? Should Jean be doing free and reduced? Or should that be an administrative position? They help you decide where that goes. You know, what makes sense as to, you know, what the position is and what they should be doing. So what Ali and I have been doing is listing everything we do by month, all of the detail stuff. It's just getting a little huge, and I didn't even add the finance in yet. So
And that's, you don't currently have job descriptions for each position.
We have a job description for Sue's
We do.
position. Ali has
Kind
stated
of
there isn't a
rough.
job description for hers, and that she's writing it, but Jean was able to pull out when you established that position, there were duties identified, you know, so I would say, but most
But
of
your
that was in
current job
HR.
description has a lot of Ali's
She-
duties on it, or they
we
combine?
go back and forth.
Okay.
Her
My
job
strengths-
description right now has HR functions in her job description.
Okay.
And Ali had to support that area. Most of Ali's is in the communications arena originally in terms of what was established.
And we've talked about it amongst the administrators too. Should I be really doing all of the special ed items for Medicaid claiming? Is that something that I should be doing? This is an organization that would come in and tell you, this is the best place to put this. Should I be doing the claiming for the special ed grants? I know the larger organizations have a grant person. We don't, that's not a possibility to have a grant person. You know, that's part of your job. So does it make sense that it's part of business manager's job, or is this something that should move over to an administrative assistant? So that's basically, I do believe that's what CISA-5 services entail.
I'm gonna simplify this just so that I understand it. So you're making a list of all those things, and they would come in and say, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, it should be done by someone else. Or this
Not you
should
should
be
be.
on you. Oh,
Now,
okay.
you shouldn't be doing it, just
Potentially.
here's a
Potential.
possibility
But I'm saying
of how.
we're giving them a list of all those things, they're not coming in and trying to dig it out.
She's giving the list because she wants. She's already doing that?
destined to be.
Got it.
Yeah. So between her, now that we have Ali here, that's when you guys have started doing this. You're not just creating it because of CISA 5.
No, we had a list, letting the staff know who to go to for what. So part of what we're doing is we're taking that and putting it on a monthly list. These are the responsibilities that need to be done. For example, I would not retire December 31st because that's when all the quarterlies are due the next month, and the W-2s and the 1099s, which would really put you in a bind. Now, you could have contracted all of that out through Skyward and CISA 5 if you wanted to. But that's
A busy month.
yeah, that's a real, January is going to be busy. Every month after the quarter ends is a busy month. That's grant claims, that's all of the quarterly reports, and actually January is the worst.
Okay. I was just trying to get at, for efficiency, if you're hiring a consultant, we're gonna give them the list. And they might not say you shouldn't, but they might say it's more efficient if you have.
Yeah, I would check with CISA 5 to make sure that, you're all on the same page with them as far as what they're going to supply you with. You know, is this gonna help you decide how to create a job description for a job posting? Who are you posting for right now? Are you posting for an LA? Are you posting for, a full-time district secretary? Are you posting for a full-time business manager? What are you posting for? And what are the job duties that's gonna fall under each of them? It may be a little bit different.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing this to us, because I think we have to be forward thinking, and consultants are helpful to kind of like tease apart when we're close to something, so I think that's good. I mean, I did the rough math, they're presenting an hourly rate of $103, which is very reasonable, but, and I think time is of the essence, because to get the information from Ale before she departs us, and to get that legacy information will be important, so I would not be in favor of delaying this until December. But I guess I would I would say, I would feel comfortable making a motion to like a not to exceed the 8310, but if you could be absolutely sure that the documentation that we provide is what you're hoping for, and I'll put the trust in you to make sure it's like really the documents you hope you get. And they should put in writing what our hourly rate is in advance as well, no blank checks. So I'd be comfortable with that, because.
Would we get a report after, or
We
would they?
we have not discussed deliverables, because, you know, some of this is an assessment coming in. I've also identified, you know, that we experienced some transactional errors and some other things. You know, so I really don't know in terms of, what they will discover
Yeah.
to advise me, to advise you.
Yeah.
In terms of what you're dealing with, if that makes sense.
I imagine they're gonna do something in writing based on the way that they would present this.
A report.
I would ask for an example, and
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable if we do like a max not to exceed.
And I'm comfortable with that too.
And
I
then you
mean,
just really make sure it's what you need to,
Yeah.
and if you abandon
Right.
it and you're saying, I'm not comfortable.
I've not
then we
used
make a
them
plan B.
before. I only know that they
Yeah.
are doing business services for districts.
Yep.
You know, so that they actually take it on. They're kind of a contract to do that
Yeah,
work.
this is their.
Payroll is an obvious one that comes up. You know, so they're throughout, you know, they hire, you know, the person this is from that has a CPA.
Okay.
I mean, so they're very much credentialed in this field. You know, and again, this is what fits a smaller school district like Bristol. And that's where I just have to make sure that I've got good eyes on this to advise you accordingly. You know, or, you know, right now, you know, there are a lot of things that there's some uncertainty, you know, in terms of how things will fit together.
Okay.
All right. I think
So I'll
that's
make
good
a
plan.
motion to approve the CISA 5 service quote not to exceed 8310.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any nays?
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
it's too vague for me at this point. I'd like to see some more information before I be able to say aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 9E, video recording of budget and annual meeting.
I have a question about this, and are we wanting to do this as usually do we always do a board meeting the same night as the annual meeting?
Scared me.
Typically, yes, we've always done a board meeting with an annual meeting, and the reason why it's a separate agenda item is because there was discrepancy about point of view of was the annual meeting to be recorded as per a regular meeting, so we just wanna make sure we solidify as a group that it will be recorded.
Well, and I'm thinking, I don't have a problem recording it, but do you want, some of our meetings go like 3 or 4 hours, and I'm wondering if that should be a separate recording?
Sure.
Or
Oh, like a
piggybacked
standard
onto, you know, somebody may be only interested in looking at.
Yeah,
budget.
oh yeah, we
That
can,
makes
we
sense.
can, I'm sure Tony can help us just bookmark the start of a budget versus annual versus the regular. It wouldn't be, if you're saying, would
It
it
wouldn't
be
be all
continuous
together.
reporting? No, that would be, no, that's a very
It
wise
would
thing to think about.
start the budget and the
Correct.
budget, start
Correct,
the
but we just
annual
wanna make
and the
sure that
annual.
we have it and there's a reference point, and the annual meeting's really important, so let's just make sure we have it all. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. That was
So,
Jack that didn't wanna do it.
Originally, this came into play because our motion before was all regular board meetings to be recorded. So why don't we just sum it up and I'll make a motion to all meetings that the board participates in be recorded.
See, I disagree with that only because that includes committee.
Right.
And committees, while they're open to the public, I believe that when you're working as a group, you have a little bit more like flexibility to not.
That would be workshops as well.
Right, so I would say we record all regular business of the board, including the budget and annual meeting.
I would also say that's a good consideration, you know, to
Forget about those tricky
Yeah.
committee
Yeah.
meetings.
Well, that's just standard when we look at what other school districts do. I mean,
Yep.
so I would say, I
Yep.
can, you want me to just make a motion?
Sure.
Alright, I'll just make a motion to approve the budget and annual meeting via video recording.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. For number 10, future agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to see on
We'll have more policies.
December? Okay.
We'll talk, yeah, more policy. I have 2 things. If we wanted to, apparently the deadline, if we wanna start before September 2nd, which is the day after Labor Day, we usually start the day after Labor Day, but if
Yep.
we want to start sooner, we have until January 1st to notify the state, but
Mhm.
usually we start after Labor Day. And then, because open enrollment decisions are also in January, if we can put that on the agenda for December to start the conversations about class size, grade level size, and open enrollment numbers, we should have that conversation in December, so we don't feel pressure in January.
I would just
Yep.
add to Danielle's comments there that Carrie and I are already working on a projected calendar for next year. In fact, Carrie
Okay.
even suggested we should start talking about, and we work, you know, with our neighboring districts, particularly, you know, Central.
Central.
You know, to make sure that you're considering some things.
Yeah.
So we're doing that, and Carrie and I are likely to even start thinking about 3-year calendar, you know, that is just tentative for 2 years out.
Okay.
But we're already in a ready state, I think, to, you know, to come, you know, in December with that.
Awesome, thank you.
Perfect. I think that we have that on our agenda calendar as well.
Perfect.
Anything else outside of those items? Great. Number 11. The board will convene into closed session to discuss and take action if appropriate under Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub C concerning employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. And 19.85 sub 1 sub F, financial, medical, social, or personnel histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific person, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred in such histories or data or involvement in such problems or investigations. Can I get a motion to convey into closed session?
I'll make a motion to convene in closed session.
Seeking a second.
I'll second.
Roll call vote to go into closed session. Tina? Aye. Joanne?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody. All right, I will make a motion to reconvene into open session.
I'll-
Seeking a second.
I'll second you.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Time is now 7:08, and I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Seeking a second.
I will second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.